everyone. Welcome to Teacher Stories. So, teachers all over the world experience similar challenges, ranging from being paid very low wages or being disrespected by the students they teach and even being killed. Many times, people see the work teachers do, but they do not always hear the stories behind the work. So tonight we're going to hear one of these stories. We're going to learn from it and be encouraged by it because this is the reason why we have teacher stories. You never can tell who you will be inspiring with your story. If you're joining us for the very first time, please subscribe to our channel, like any of our videos so that we can reach out to more teachers. My name is Ibiere Brown and I am your host. And with me is my co-host, Miss Adepoju Mary. Welcome, Mary. It's good to have you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. I hope you're ready for today's guest. She's our very first international educator. So let's meet our guest. Her name is Miss Anna Avula. I do hope I've not destroyed that name. Miss Anna Avula is an
Avuga.
international Avuga. Oh, okay. So because it's an L, I thought it was
Yeah,
Avula. So
Avuga. Yeah,
sorry.
it's fine.
Miss Anna Avuga is an international English teacher, communication strategist, and founder of AVEC, that is AVEC, her communication consultancy. She is a Ghanaian educator based in Indonesia and empowers educators, mentors, and all professionals to build confident communication skills, strengthen their professional brands, and thrive in diverse international contexts. She does this through one on one or group trainings for interviews, presentations, and communication mentorship trainings. Everyone, welcome Miss Anna. Miss Anna, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
coming.
much, Brown. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited to share my experiences on your show today. And I hope it's going to be an exciting discussion today. Thank you.
Yes, we hope so too. So tell us, this is how we do it on teacher stories. You tell us how it
Mhm.
began for you, how education started for
Hmm.
you. Mm.
Okay, so I think this is the typical story of most teachers, right?
Yes.
They always say, "Oh, I teaching found me in a way because I wasn't really looking to be a teacher, but teaching found me." Uh, Similar to my story, my parents were both teachers, and growing up, it has always been around me. And I did see exactly how teaching was at the time. It wasn't so lucrative. It was stressful. It was like, nah, this is not the job for me. I want to be a teacher. But the thing that I noticed is that gradually, as I grew up and I started to learn so many things and open up, I realized that I do have the knack for teaching. It actually comes to me naturally. And I went to university where I studied English and linguistics as my degree. So I went into language straight away. Then, and back home in my country in Ghana, there's something called national service. I think we have a similar thing in Nigeria called NYSC. I think, if I'm not mistaken. And
National
it's like
service, yes.
you have to serve the country once you're done. So with me, I was posted to a school, an international school at the time, to serve as a teaching assistant for a year. So that is how
Okay.
my teaching story journey began. So it wasn't something I had always wanted to do from childhood, but growing up, it fit right into the spot where I needed to be. And then that is how I got into international teaching. So I grew up learning the Ghanaian curriculum, the local Ghanaian curriculum. But this posting took me into an international level. I got to know how teaching is done, how student centered lessons are created. I got to learn things about differentiation, lower abilities, higher abilities, all the things that I needed to know about international curriculum teaching
Yeah.
is where I got into that NSS. Now, after doing that for a year, I realized that I do love that type of teaching. It was different from the one that I learned, which was more like feeding and like, the banking type of teaching where you just give kids the knowledge, but they don't actually actively learn. So that is how I loved and I came to adore that type of learning, and after my year of national service, I decided to take, just give it a try, even though it's not my desire. I decided to take it on. And I applied to some other international schools after my national service. As a teacher at the moment, I wanted to, let me just start my journey as a teacher. I got into it. I applied to so many schools, so many schools. Many of them were not really available. I didn't get any call from them, but I did get a call from one school, and they told me that
Okay.
they are willing to take me as a teacher, but only as a teaching assistant. They're not going to take me as a full teacher because I'm not ready yet. So they still want me to be an assistant and steady. So it was quite tough because I didn't want to be a teaching assistant again. I had already spent one whole year seven and doing all that. But one thing I taught myself at the moment is that there is no way of learning everything at once. You have to learn things slowly. So I had that growth mindset that even though I'm still starting at scratch again, it is a very good way for me to really learn this curriculum, learn this system, and then grow to become the kind of teacher that I want to be. So I accepted the offer, and then for 2 years, I studied thoroughly how to be an international educator. And that has also led to where I am at the moment because I grew from being a teaching assistant to become a full blown teacher, professional teacher of my own, to become a coordinator, a middle school coordinator where I led teachers to teach. And then from there, I now moved internationally, and then I'm an international educator here in Asia. So I noticed that that step was building me to something bigger at the time. I did not know. But now looking back, I realized that, okay, that was a very good choice at the time because the kind of person it built me into and the kind of knowledge I gave into my students and the kind of experience I have that I'm sharing now was all based on the decision of taking that step and not looking at myself too big enough to start from scratch. So that has been my journey up until now.
Wow, thank you very much, Miss Anna. That was quite interesting, and your story is quite inspiring. For the fact that you have the growth mindset, and then it really, brought you to this point. I'm glad
Yeah.
of that. All right. So, okay, Miss Idire is here back. Okay, let me just.
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear
You
you.
can.
Okay. Okay. So I heard almost everything that you said. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And from your profile, you said you are a Ghanaian educator. Now you are
Yeah.
based in Indonesia. So did your education journey start in Ghana or in
Yeah.
Indonesia?
Well, my education journey started in Ghana. I went to junior high school called Mespa International. It's like one of those schools, junior high schools in Ghana. From there, I went to Accra Girls Senior High School. I did my 4 years of high school there. And from there, I went to University of Ghana, where I did my degree in English and linguistics. So I was
Oh,
studying or using English and linguistics, my degree to teach. Then I noticed that I needed to upgrade because even though I had already learned how to teach English, I needed to learn how to teach as a
mhm,
teacher. I didn't have a professional teaching. So I still took myself back to school again
okay.
to
Oh,
University of Education, Winneba, and did my
mhm,
PGDE, my postgraduate in education, because I still felt like I needed more things to learn.
yeah.
And this was funny because after my degree, I told myself I wasn't going back to school again. I was like, chai, I'm not doing that degree thing again. No more school for me. I was so confident I wasn't going back. But I am so surprised that I am the same person that looked at my career. I'm like, hey, if you have to go forward, you need to go back. So even though I had vowed to myself that I didn't want to go back to school, I found myself enrolling and then taking my postgraduate again, like the good student that I am, just to learn more so I can be the better teacher that I can be for my students in the classroom and also be the best teacher I can be, supporting my other teachers, in the school community. So then I went to do my PGD after that. And honestly, that was a very good choice because then that professional teacher status was something that I had earned. Because at the moment, that PGDE led to me having my teacher's license, which is something that is also very important. You need to be licensed enough to show that your skills are you're qualified enough to teach. You have the pedagogy, the techniques, and everything that is needed for a teacher to inspire students. And then that also helped me with my international job application, honestly. And then that is what helped me to even be where I am at the moment. So
Yeah.
having that growth mindset, as Miss Mary said, was really a very big help. If I closed my mind at the time and told myself I didn't need to grow, I didn't need to learn, I was safe and comfortable where I was in the four corners of the classroom that I was in at the time, I
Yeah.
would not be where I am right now. I always had to push myself harder than I thought I was supposed to push myself.
Mm.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Miss, for sharing this.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
I find it very interesting because many teachers, focus heavily on just improving their teaching skills, but
yeah.
don't pay attention to how we communicate ideas,
Mm,
achievement, and expertise as to a wider audience. So
yeah.
now, my question for you is, how can educators overcome fear and nervousness
Mm,
during interviews, presentations on public speaking engagement?
yeah.
Because from your profile, you are a consultant. So how can
Yes.
teachers, educators, how can they overcome that? Thank you.
One of the biggest thing that I found has really helped me in my career is the fact that I always communicated or try to communicate my skills and my worth. Sometimes you might say that your job speaks for itself, or like people are seeing what you're doing, but it doesn't always come out that way. Sometimes you actually need to let people know what you are worth. If you don't communicate your worth and you just assume that people are seeing it, somebody who is actually communicating their worth is going to pass you. You're going to get the role that you deserve and you are supposed to get to. So one thing I noticed is that even through my ground up, my beginning from being a teaching assistant to becoming a teacher, a coordinator to an international educator, communication has been the biggest part of trying to share people the ideas that I have. It is not easy to speak. It's not easy to communicate. It's very tough. One of the biggest flaws is that as humans, we are very conscious about ourselves. The first time we speak or people hear us say something, there's so many things in our minds like, I hope I'm speaking well. I hope I look okay. I hope what I'm saying is right. So the internal voice that puts us down, so many. They are
Mm.
always bringing up a lot of insecurities. The moment you start speaking, doubts come in, insecurities come in. So it's really tough for you. However, the thing is that you need to focus on the message you are given. Why is it important? Why do the people or why do these people need to hear what you have to say? It's not about you anymore at the moment. Even though you're on the spotlight, you think about the people that you're giving the message to. Forget about how you're speaking, how you look like, your pace. All those things just get crammed into your head and it becomes difficult for you to even be the person that you want to be. So being a global communicator is not about having the perfect accent. No, it's not about having the perfect things to say. It's just about the fact that you have a clear message. What exactly do you want to say? How do you want to say it? How is it going to benefit the people who are listening to you? And that is how you become a good communicator. Taking yourself out of the equation to avoid all the crowded noise and voice in your mind to put you down. Because if you're not careful, you rather put yourself down instead of you lifting yourself up mentally. And then the message that you have get lost in translation. So that is one of the biggest things. You need to focus on the message and people listening to it rather than being self-conscious. Because if you give yourself the chance to think too much of yourself, you are not going to be able to deliver exactly the message that you need to give the people that are supposed to listen to you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Miss Anna. Listening to you now, I realize that communication is more than just speaking correctly. It's
Yes.
also about confidence, it's about clarity, it's about ability to connect with people. I think
Yeah.
that's a very good. Okay,
Yeah.
let me give the host the floor. Minister Biere.
Yeah. I think she's still um yes.
Okay, all right, let me continue then. So, as an educator who has successfully worked in
Mhm.
different countries, now,
Yes.
what communication skills has helped you, has contributed most to your global success?
Working globally or thinking globally is something that almost everybody wants to do, right? But the
Yes.
thing you need to have in mind is that it's not just about you going out there to teach. It's also about the kind of life you want to live. What kind of inspiration do you want to have for people, even back home, listening to you, right? Now, one thing that I've always thought is that I've always looked at the classroom as a stepping stone to take you further into your career. I don't believe in being too comfortable in the classroom all the time and not growing. If you are not growing, you don't have a growth mindset, or you're not communicating your skills properly, you're going to stay where you are as long as you want to, but you're not going to move. And as teachers, there's always this mindset that there's nothing much we can do, which is a very, very, negative mindset. There's just so much more that teachers can do outside the classroom. The kind of
So
skills that we
much.
have in the classroom, way more. We can actually leave the classroom and then fit into so many other careers, and we'll fit in
Yes.
properly, because there's so many things we do in the classroom. We are managing behavior, we are doing administrative tasks, we are doing counseling, we are doing psychology, information, emotional intelligence. There's just so many skills that teachers have that go outside that. So if you're thinking of going globally, you also need to communicate the skills that you want, that you have. You're not just a teacher, but you're also going to be building a strong rapport with the students. How do you communicate to, the person interviewing you that, hey, I am a teacher, but I also come with this skill, that skill, and that skill. So first, you need to sit down and think, what are some of the other skills that I bring on board? And then that is the thing that you communicate to the interview or the person that you're talking to. If they're asking you something like, how do you manage behavior scenes or horrible behavior in the classroom, the first thing you need to think about is that you need to understand emotionally what kind of behavior the student is exerting, and that is emotional intelligence. You need to communicate the fact that as a teacher you have that skill. If you don't communicate, then they're just going to think like you are just trying to manage the classroom without understanding the deep root cause of it. So there's always something behind a child's behavior that you need to bring out, and the root cause is the fact that there's an underlying thing that you, the teacher, need to understand first before you even start helping or addressing that. So international or global education, it comes with you searching yourself as a teacher first. Know the skills that you have, and then you communicate that skill confidently. Tell them that I do this, I can do that, I can also do this, I can also do that. That is what makes me unique, and that is why you need me in your company, or that's why you need me in your institution to help groom or grow and nurture the students that you have. So that is the main thing. Find yourself, know the skills, and then you communicate it confidently. If you shy away from it, somebody else who has that confidence to talk about the skills that they have will get that opportunity, whilst you deserve that opportunity. So it's all about taking that mindset and then just going for it. So that's one of the important things about communicating your skills globally.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. What I picked from what you said now is find yourself, know your skill, and communicate it. That's
Yes.
very powerful. All right, Miss Ibiere, I think she's back.
I'm kind of back. I do hope I'm back.
Yes, we hope you're back too.
Wow. There's so much network glitch. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No
as
more.
an international educator, what has teaching
Mhm.
in an international environment taught you about culture, confidence, and of course, human connection? Because we need
One of
these
the
things. If we are,
very,
yeah, go
very,
ahead.
very important. One of the biggest thing is the
Yeah.
fact that you have to learn a lot. And the biggest thing
Mm-hmm.
I've said about Elias, open-mindedness. I see a lot of educators who want to go abroad, but they are not willing to be open to other people's culture. And it doesn't work that way. The moment you want to go global, your mind has to also be global. You're going to meet different colleagues from different countries. They're going to have their own language, their own food, their own clothing. They're going to have their own mindset. They're going to have their own behaviors. They're going to have their own different ways of communicating. But if you don't know how to be open-minded, one, and secondly, be tolerant, it will be difficult for you to work with any of these people, right? So one thing I personally did is before I even traveled abroad, the country, which is Indonesia, I actually started studying the language way from back home in Ghana before I went there, because I knew that I was going to a new country. So I decided to set myself up for success, if I should say. I wasn't planning to go there to fail. I wasn't planning to go there to shrink, and I wasn't planning to go there to be too lost. So I started learning the language a month before, pick up a few words here and there, maybe thank you, please, what is your name, what work do you do? That way I can connect with people locally and not just be in my, four square and say, hey, I'm a Ghanaian and I'm not willing to expand myself or I don't want to know anybody. That is not so. If you have that mindset where you want to always be by yourself or you are the type of person who has a guard up and don't want to open up to other people's culture, it will be difficult for you because it is very, very important, you know. And for example, I currently work with a lot of teachers from the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, South Africa, and sometimes it is not easy because everybody comes with their own different culture, a lot of cultural shock. People do things a lot differently than how we used to do things at home, back where you're coming from. So if you don't have that open mindset, you're already going to see people, you're going to judge them even before you see them for who they really are. So the most important thing is just be tolerant, be open-minded, and also show them you're interested into their culture. It might be hard for them to accept yours, but that is not the problem. The problem is how do you relate to them? If somebody doesn't relate to you the way you relate to them, it's okay. You still need to do what you have to do. Tolerate everyone just as fair and um, as loving as you like everybody else treat you. So that is one of the biggest things that really helps you to open your mind globally and open yourself to all the other cultures that sit around you as a global educator.
Okay. So during this time, what challenges did you face? What can you share that have been your challenges moving from Ghana to Indonesia? I'm sure there are some things, some challenges
Yeah.
you face.
The major settling in was a bit easy because there is a lot of similarities, with Indonesia and Ghana. For example, the weather was okay, the food is similar, and it was quite easy. The only thing was the language I had to learn before going there. And accent was also a bit tough for me to pick up, but within a few months I was able to pick it up. And working with my colleagues was also very good. It was really smooth. However, there are some colleagues who are from other countries, as I said. Sometimes it's difficult to communicate with them, right? They might, be in your space, they're all in your space, or they behave in a way that you know very well is not unprofessional. Do you get up and start shouting and yelling at them? Or do you comport yourself as a teacher and as a professional, For example, if you're working and somebody just gets into your space or they're saying something, they're distracting you, and you know that if you're back home, you might be a bit more, considering that, hey, this person is going to come. In a global space, people do whatever they want to do at that time. So you need to learn how to be tolerant.
Yeah.
So these are some of the challenges that I faced. I had to find ways and means to focus on myself. And the thing that I did that really helped me is the fact that people are very open and friendly and really grateful with me. I was also very careful to mind my business sometimes. Like focus on what's mine and mine alone. Sometimes if you are involving yourself too much in other people's, business or other people's stuff,
Business.
you
Yeah.
get dragged into it and it's a whole lot. So if it's mine, I focus on mine alone. I don't get myself involved in other things. And that has really helped me a lot. For the past 2 years I've been in Indonesia, it's helped me a lot because the moment you start involving yourself in people's, private life or engaging yourself too much with colleagues, then you start hearing your name in places where you were not even in the first place. So it really helped me a lot to just focus on what I'm supposed to do. But mainly, I didn't have a lot of, challenges when it comes to like race or anything of that sort because the people are actually very welcoming. And one thing about me is that even if you don't treat me right and I treat you right, that's all that matters. I'm not expecting, I don't do things expecting anything in return. I do it because I'm human and I know you're human and you deserve it. That's always the mindset. It's not like a tit for tat thing. So I respect you because you're my professional, you're my colleague. But if I don't get the same respect back, it's fine. I still move on to give you the same respect that I is due you as a professional. And these are the kind of mindset that you need to build before you can go global. If not, you're just going to take things personally, have arguments here and there, be fighting with colleagues, exchanging words. That is not the professional mindset. That is not how to communicate as a global educator. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Hannah. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we see that many educators want to go global. Even I
Yeah.
myself, I want to go global. Now,
Yes.
what? Yes, as
I
I was
like that.
telling
I
many,
really
like
love that. I love it when teachers, educators want to go global because it was something that I also at a point didn't know until I realized that, hey, I can go global. I don't have to be here forever. I can
yes,
move. So I love it when teachers say they want to go global because it tells you that the mindset is not getting out of the classroom into the world. And that is one thing that I really advocate for.
yes. Thank you very much. So, what are some common communication mistakes that
Mm,
educators make due
yeah.
from standing in the
Yeah.
global space?
Mm,
Everyone wants to go global, but there are some mistakes that they make to
yeah.
prevent them from standing out in the global space. What are some of the mistakes educators make?
One of the biggest mistake is how they present themselves on the CV, because going global is different from a local hire. If you're going global, it means that the words that you're using should already scream global or international teacher, right? So there's
Yes,
some few tips that I give teachers who want to go global. And the first tip is that if you are writing about yourself, you need to also state statistics. What are the real results that actually came out of what you did? It's not about I managed a class of 20 students or I managed a class of 20 students in an exam. What was the result? How many people passed? What were the benefits? Did some of the students um, increase their scores? Did shy students become more confident in presentation? So there need to be some tangible result at the end of your task that shows that you have actually done something. It's not about just saying that I was a teacher of a class of 20 students and that's it. You need to be specific with your results. That's one of the very important mistakes that they need to work on. Second mistake is the fact that they do not state exactly what the school wants from them. For example, the school, let's say the job title has a lot of description and requirements. So they need to look at that carefully. What exactly is the school looking for? And they need to use some of the keywords, okay, from that job search into their CV. I am an international educator that focuses on, student-centered learning. I help students with differentiation, learning abilities. I'm able to so specific international keywords make them know that you are already international minded. But if you don't include those things, then they don't really know exactly where you stand when it comes to the international market. So that's a very important thing. Include the important points that they're looking for into your CV so that they can see you and like, wow, this is exactly what we need. We need this kind of teacher who connects with our students. We need this kind of teacher who, will be able to be more of like a role and a mentor than just giving them information, right? Now, the third tip or the third mistake is that they only focus on the teaching aspect. There should also be some extra skill. There should be something more fun and unique about you. What makes you more human than just being in a classroom? So it's important to include some extra curriculum activities that you probably do that makes you unique outside the classroom. For example, back in Ghana with me, I was like a dance teacher. I'm not a professional dance teacher, but I had a dance club. And I had this case
yes,
where we used to do dancing. So sometimes you dance and perform for the school. We dance for like programs and events and stuff like that. I included that into my CV that, hey, I'm not just coming with the teaching pedagogy and the skills. I'm also coming with
mm,
extra curriculum skills that you will need in your school. And that is also something that helps them, you get that attractive or that attraction from them. So it's a whole lot of things that you need to bring up onto them. You tell them exactly the results that you've achieved. You let them know specifically the things of international curriculum that you are aware of, and also the extra skills outside the classroom that you bring on board. Because you need to also be beneficial to the school wide. It's not just about the
yes,
classroom alone. How beneficial are you for the whole school? How can you support the whole schoolwork? So these are the type of things that are very important to include into your CV or to communicate when you are trying to put yourself out there for global education or global communication.
Thank you very much. It baffles me when teachers come for an interview, you interview them, and then you ask them what are other skills you
Yeah,
have. And then it's so surprising that they will tell you, I can teach very well. I can teach very well. Like we
that's
are
true.
asking so much. the skills you can bring in as a teacher, aside from the fact that you can teach. Yes, we
Yeah,
know
what
you can
else?
teach. Those are other things, extracurricular skills, tailoring,
Yes.
other skills you can do, you can bring in. It's so
Yeah.
surprising. They tell me we can teach. I can teach. I know how to teach very well. Both here in Nigeria now, not to
Yeah.
talk of looking for global opportunity.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
global opportunities are very important to always give yourself, because it is a competition. The word global
Yes,
alone tells you that there's so many other people looking for the same opportunity that you are, looking. So if you are competing with 1,000 other people, you just teaching alone is not the only thing that is important. Like, what extra things are you bringing on board? What unique attitude? What unique personality are you bringing along? How fun and exciting are you? What kind of energy are you bringing along? All these things matters. They see all this through the interview. The way you answer the questions, the way you show some courtesy, the kind of information and communication you give them, they see all these things and they see that this is the person that we want, and then that is how they
one.
get you onto board. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss Anna.
Mhm.
Going to be raised back here.
Yes.
Yes, I'm back.
This,
Sorry
yes.
for all the glitches. I've been trying to navigate between two devices, so
Yeah.
it's just giving me a headache, and I'm sorry about that. Okay, so
So
I want to ask something about moving. So let's say I want to move from Nigeria to
yeah.
maybe Indonesia or any part of the world. For
Mhm.
me, I've always said if I was going to leave Nigeria, I won't be leaving Nigeria to go teach. I'll have to look for a different profession. And the reason is because I hear stories of how students behave or treat their teachers. Okay, so there's this Instagram handle I follow, and the
Mm.
account owner just keeps showcasing different clips of how teachers are treated, how they get up and they walk out of classrooms. I'm not talking about Nigerian kids. I'm talking about kids maybe in America or somewhere, I don't know, but he just keeps showcasing these instances. The last one I saw, the student pulled the lady's wig from her hair and was running around the class. The other day, he showed one that the boy blew her face, punched her face, and I'm like, if I have to go to places like that, how am I going to survive? And these teachers do not throw back the punch. They don't retaliate to this thing. So I've always said I don't want to go abroad to teach. I would have to find a different profession. So for someone like me who would like to, relocate, what country do you think is best, or how do you encourage someone like me? Because I'm not going to leave this country to go and teach. I prefer teaching Nigerian kids. Nigerian kids, to an extent, you can actually control them. So when you find
Yeah.
yourself in places where you can't control the kids, and the school isn't doing anything about it, there is no punishment whatsoever. They call it what's that thing they call it when they want to punish their students, and then they do. Unlike Nigerian schools, we get to use the cane. We ask them to
Yeah.
cut grasses. You know, but they don't do that over there. So I might as well just remain in Nigeria. So for someone like me, what would you say to me?
Okay. What I'll say to you first is that teaching in different countries come with their own struggle. Global teaching doesn't mean freedom from all of the things you've mentioned, because even things like that can also happen in some countries in Africa, some teaching countries in Africa. It could be anywhere. However, some continents have a bit more of control over the kids than other continents do. If you mention UK and US, it's very difficult with those kind of kids. They are brought up in such a way that they don't really have a lot of school training, so they have very difficult giving teachers respect in such areas. I'm not sure how kids usually are raised in those areas, but it's really, really tough. However, my experience is only from Asia. I haven't taught in America or UK. But with my Asian students so far and where I've taught so far, I noticed that honestly they are a bit more cultured. They have a bit more of, some home training where they are not going to get up and start doing things like that. It might happen in other countries, it might happen in other classes or other schools, but currently where I am, there's nothing of that sort. So what the teacher needs to do is first do your research. I did a lot of research before starting to choose the country that I want to choose. So during my research, I saw all the things you mentioned right now in those parts of the world. And I told myself that is not where I'm going to go to. Then I did other research into the continent and I noticed that some of the countries here, they do have some good students or some good schools that you can definitely manage. It's not going to be perfect, but some places are harder than others, and some places are easier than others. Okay, there might also be a school in the UK or the US that is also easier with kids rather than difficult kids. Now, the most important thing is how the teacher reacts. Unfortunately, the caliber of student coming up and growing up is very difficult to raise them anymore because the internet is basically now raising our kids, and it's really tough to listen to them, or it's tough for them to listen to us. And the main reason is because they are more like a technological area where they're always scrolling. They always have this constant stimulation. There's always something going on in front of them on their space. So it's hard for them to just sit down, pay attention, and listen. So a little inactivity could cause them some form of, discomfort. That is one of the major things. So as a teacher, if you really want to be able to grab your attention of the students, you also need to be very energetic in a way that you grab their attention and find ways and means in which you can actually get their attention for them to learn, right? So if you know that your students are hyper, you also need to find a way to get them engaged. Activities where they are doing hands-on activities, they are either doing role play, presentations, things that they are up and going rather than just sitting down behind the book, then you're going to find them misbehaving. So you need to also find a way of trying to get them active. It's not about just letting them sit down and read all the time. Sometimes you can just go to the class if you have a specific topic and you can actually turn that topic into a very interesting activity like a role play. You can just do that so that you get them all up and active and doing something interesting. So it depends on which country you're going to. It depends on the culture of the country, because if you are not too careful, you might find yourself in a place where it's difficult to control the kids, and management might not even help you with how to handle the kids in the first place. But you still need to find a way around it, and you still need to have that ability as a teacher to have your class under control. And I will not say that I've had it easy as a teacher either. There have been several times that I've had kids who have tried to, let me use this word, piss me off for no reason. Just go west at school or growing up, I was a very, very impatient person. I'm very quick-tempered and hot-tempered, honestly. So I remember my parents, my dad specifically telling me that he doesn't think I can ever be a teacher because of how quickly I get angry and how impatient I am. But for 10 years now, with patience I didn't even know I could even get, but I know only God above gave me that patience to be able to teach for 10 years. So it is a skill that you gradually earn, you know, from time again and time again. You need to keep telling yourself that they are still kids. They still don't understand what they're doing. So if you are the adult, you don't emotionally control yourself. You cannot emotionally control them either. It has to be something that you can do for yourself first and then do for them. For example, as an adult, adulting is hard, it's difficult. You cannot be happy 24/7. Sometimes you come to work already stressed, but you cannot revert that stress onto the kids at that moment. You get it? So you always need to find a way to regulate yourself. So these kids that are behaving that way, they also have their own things that they're dealing with. And they bring that negativity into the classroom. You need to find a way to be able to put it under control. So if I should give you an honest review, no country is easy, no school is easy, no continent is easy. The most important thing is how you, the teacher, regulate yourself and the research you do for yourself. Find the country where you think is more manageable, the continent is more manageable, and then you look for schools in that area. You talk to other teachers who are there and tell them that, hey, I'm trying to go to this kind of continent or this kind of country. How do you think about the students there? They will give you, the feedback that, hey, the kids here could be like this, the kids here could be like that. Or these ones are manageable, these ones are not manageable. That is how you learn before you even start getting into that space in the first place. You always need to ask and always need to research. You don't just get up and just go anywhere. You end up finding yourself in places where you will regret even trying to go into global teaching in the first place.
Okay, I'll look into it. I'll try to change my mind because I don't know. just those stories are scary because when I see them on
I've
Instagram, I'm
seen videos
like,
like that
what?
of the UK and US. It is tough, but honestly, from examples from where I am in Asia so far, it's okay. It's much manageable than those areas. Yeah, because there's a little bit more of cultural and home training in this side compared to the other
Okay.
side. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's way manageable than the
Okay.
other side. Yes.
Okay, so what do you think should be the role of parents in this whole situation, considering the
Wow.
picture I've already painted? If the teacher is trying to be trying to practice self-control, she has her emotions under control. The parents are not helping because I also watched one other one. The teacher was telling the parents of the child that she came to school with a phone, with a cell phone, and cell phones aren't allowed in schools. And then the mother just laughed over it. I just felt
Yeah.
disappointed. You're supposed to scold the child, right? But if the parents are encouraging the kids to behave the way they do, what then is our fate? Even though we are trying to be controlled, and trying to manage the situation. I mean, we are humans, and these are some of the reasons why teachers quit every day. So, what is the role of parents in situations like this?
Hmm. When it comes to parents, there's a lot to say about their role and how important it is, but somehow it's hard for them to understand. One of the biggest thing is their perception is that students spend a lot of time in school with us, so they assume that we should have to train them in all aspects. But it doesn't work that way. Parents are the first point of contact and the first point of learning for kids. They stay home at least to a certain age before they start coming to school. So during that
Yes.
formative years, how have you trained these kids? You know, you see a lot of
Mhm.
kids at that formative age throwing tantrums, lying on the floor, doing whatever they want, and the parents is standing there looking at them, and that is what they grew up with, and then they come into the classroom with. So honestly, parents have the
Mhm.
biggest role in forming a child from ground up.
Yeah.
They refuse to do their job and put everything on the teacher, forgetting that the teacher is doing more than 1,000 things at once. You're grading, you're doing administrative tasks, you have to
Yeah.
manage behavior, not just one, not just two, 30, 40, 50 different behavior
Mm.
disorders at a time. And you
Mhm.
have to finish the curriculum, you have to finish the syllabus. At the end of the day, you have to deal with parents at the same time. So even though they're supposed to do their part, it's really tough for that kind of communication, that kind of dialogue is really difficult. And the thing is that the parents, or like let's say our parents or the older generation, knew how important it was. They actually did that training. When I grew up, my parents were not just letting me be like that. I didn't grow up with a screen. There's no way. But now parents are allowing the screen to raise their kids. They don't actually spend the time grooming and growing their kids and nurturing them. The moment the child is just growing or like pissing them off, they just, here's the tablet, here's the phone, watch this, watch that. So the kids are being nurtured by the screens rather than human beings, and that nurturing is now translating to the way they're behaving. So it's very important for parents to actually train their kids, really tell them that, hey, this is how to behave in public, this is how to behave, this is how to respect somebody who's teaching you, this is how to respect an elder, this is how to respect a teacher.
Mhm.
They're supposed to do
Mhm.
all that job, but unfortunately, they are not doing it. And then when it comes to school, they expect us to have to be the ones to do everything. So honestly, at this point, I don't think teachers can do everything. Parents have to do their part for everything to be equalized. It's a 50-50 thing. Not even 50-50. There should be a bit more of an imbalance because they spend a lot of times with their parents and then just a few of the hours with
Yeah.
us. They are your kids. No matter what, they're going to leave
Yeah.
school at a point in time and be with you. So if they're going to be with you and they're your children, you build them with that character that you want them to be. And that character is what is being shown in the classroom. And if teachers come across parents who are not willing to help, you can only do as far as you can go. I don't go beyond trying to convince a parent to do their job. If I give you this suggestion and that suggestion that you don't want to work with me, I do my part and then I let the rest go. Because it's not easy. I cannot stress my life for a child whose parent is not even willing to put in their effort. It is you help me, I help you situation. It is building a child. It's a holistic thing we're trying to build here. It's not about academics. It's not about their behavior, their character, how they become real human beings in the society. So it is more than the village that should even build a child, and not just the teacher alone. So yeah, it's very important for for parents to do their part. However, unfortunately, we're not seeing that in our world, in our generation, and teachers can only do as much as they can. And unfortunately, it's something that is going to be a challenge for a long time to come, because more of the parents coming up are becoming less and less disengaged with their kids, unfortunately. Yeah, so teachers have to just do their part and then we move on with what we're supposed to do. We cannot just do everything. We are not superhuman. They want us to believe you're superhuman, but no, we are not superhumans. We need that support from home to really train kids fully.
Yes, we do.
It's not a one person job. It's not a one person job.
Yes, thank you so much. We actually do need the support from parents, even those of
Yeah,
us here in Nigeria. We know the things that we see and we handle. Although because we are still in Africa, we have some form of home training that the children are able to stay put. We are able to control them. So for
yes.
those of us in the international community, we do hope that
It's a
parents will
different,
do more because it's appalling when you see those type of videos. I didn't
yeah,
really like it. I honestly didn't like how the mother behaved. I wouldn't have done that. I would have
yeah,
acted differently. So I do hope that parents will help teachers because sometimes they send kids to school and they expect us to do all the magic. We teach them, and then we should also make them behave properly. We should teach them manners. We try. I know I try. Oh, Miss Anna, don't you do that? Are
yes.
there
I
times
do
when
it
you
all
get
the time.
correct a child, you should say please when you're asking for something
Every
from your
single
classmates?
time. Every single time.
Mm.
Every single
So
time.
they expect us to
Because
do the magic.
yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's not easy at all.
Is
And
is
the
is
most important
is
thing is that
yeah.
with these kids, one thing
Mm-hmm.
that the parents keep forgetting is the fact that it is not just about the learning in the classroom. I believe the fact that whatever they're doing is a lifelong journey. Learning is
Yeah.
lifelong. It's not just a classroom for now. How is that child going to
Mm-hmm.
be as an adult? How is he going to work with other
Exactly.
people?
What adult
How
is
is he
that?
going to tolerate? So if your child is misbehaving and making it difficult for other people to even work together as a group, the kind of adult is going to be in an office space is going to be crazy. He's not going to be working well in presentations. He's going to put the group down. Even as a leader, it's going to be horrible for him to lead other people. So parents are
Yeah.
forgetting the fact that children training right now is not just about grades and results. It's about them being full-blown adults and living a life that surrounds other people. Nobody lives in isolation. You live with other people. Tolerance is important. How do you show kindness? How do you show care? How do you show some form of respect to other people and other people's, desires and interests and stuff like that? So all these things, we also have to learn all these things and teach them. But parents need to do that even more because character development starts from
Mm-hmm.
home before it comes into the classroom, you know?
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah. Oh well, teachers go through a lot, unfortunately.
you
Like we'll
do
have
go
to
through a
just
lot.
keep, going through the things, and God is going to help us, through it. Okay, Miss Mary, do you have any more questions for Miss Anna?
Yes, I do. All right, I want to go to the mentorship aspect of
Okay.
your profile.
Okay.
Yes, so can you tell us about AVEC, and then what inspired you to establish your communication consultancy?
Hmm, okay. I noticed that there's a lot of teachers who want to, go global, or professionals in general who want to go global, but a lot of them are shrinking in the sense that they're feeling a bit scared to be able to show their skills or their abilities, and that is what inspired me to start AVEC. So AVEC is a consultancy that helps professionals communicate confidently and professionally so that they can scale up their career. And what I do is just, one-on-one mentorship, group mentorship. It could be any form of support, masterclass, or mentorship that I could give. And it has been helpful because I did like a 12-day communication challenge a few weeks ago, which helped a lot of professionals come out of their shell. We learned a lot of things about speaking without speaking assertively, but not with aggression. You can be assertive with your words, but you don't have to be angry or shout, when you're talking. We also learned a lot about boundaries, how to have boundaries as a professional. We spoke about things when it came to the words that we use that makes us feel shrinking. Like if you know something, be confident to say. Don't pretend like you're being too modest. and that could make people feel like you're not as confident as you look or seem. So these are some of the things that I learn or I do with my AVEC consultancy. It has also stemmed from my own experience as an educator. As I mentioned from the beginning, starting from ground up as a TA, as a teaching assistant, all the way to international educator, communication really helped me a lot. How do I tell people how good I am and the kind of work that I'm able to give if I don't tell them exactly what I do or exactly how I've communicated? So as a TA, I do communicate with my, my head teachers. I tell them that, I've done this, I've done that. Do you need me to help you with this? Do you need me to help you with that? So those are the things that they saw that helped me with the growth that I needed at the time. So if I did not communicate how much I've learned or how good I've gotten over the 2 years, I wouldn't have been promoted to become a teacher at the time. And if I didn't still communicate how valuable my resources or my experience were, I would not become like a coordinator. So it was through the communication that led me to where I am today. You don't just sit there and just assume that people see or know whatever you're doing. You need to communicate. Sometimes if there's a role available, you need to go for it. Confident enough and communicate that, hey, this role is available. I want to apply for this, or I want to take this role because I feel like I have this skill or that skill or that skill. So this is kind of the information on some of the skills that I'm trying to build in professionals who want to communicate their skills well enough to their clients, to parents, to their bosses, to recruiters, just generally anyone who wants to tell their story or their skills. That is what I help them with ABEC.
Thank you very much. All right, Miss Iberi, we have a question. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Okay. Miss Anna, so how can people connect with you, learn from you, or work with ABEC?
Okay, so I can really have like a WhatsApp group where I have like professionals who we after we did the top day communication. So we do some engagements in the WhatsApp group, like giving some inspiration on communication, asking questions here and there, so they can
Okay.
give. When I do some training in the WhatsApp group. So what they can do is they can follow me on
Yeah.
LinkedIn or any of my posts that has the WhatsApp link. They can just join and be part of the community, the ABEC community, and then we can get more information from there.
Okay, so thank you so much, Miss Anna. Thank you, Miss Mary, for holding on to the stories despite my glitches. Thank you so much. So one last thing, what do you want people to remember from your story after this section? And
Okay.
then any last words?
All right. One of the biggest thing I want them to learn or pick up from this story is growth mindset. Don't be like me. Don't finish one aspect of your education and tell yourself that you're done because then you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because I did that and I noticed that I was not going to grow if I had that mindset. If I had a closed mindset that I was done and I didn't want to grow, I wouldn't have been where I am. So be open minded, always put yourself into situations where you're learning, like keep learning never stops. Open mindset,
Mm-hmm.
learning to grow yourself is what is very, very important. That's one of the biggest thing that I can say. So, and also communicate. Don't just make yourself shrink in a way that you're sabotaging yourself. Like, oh, I don't think I can do this. Oh, I don't think I should say this. I don't think I should advertise my services. I don't think I should advertise my skills. Then who is going to do it for you? It
Yeah.
has to be you, right? So these are all the things that you need to learn. Have an open mindset, be open to communicate confidently, and also be a lifelong learner. Never stop learning, and that is an important thing for you to grow as a professional.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Anna. We had a lovely time together, very inspiring section. Those of you that are just joining us, subscribe. And if you missed all the conversations, just go back to the recorded version and you hear all about Miss Anna. Thank you, Miss Anna.
All
Thank you,
right,
Miss
thank you so
Mary. Have a good night.
much. All right, thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Bye.